I don't know if you guys have noticed in the past week or so, but Chaim Bloom has been wheeling and dealing. After at the start of the season, it kind of felt like the Red Sox front office was taking a nap because they decided to wait until January to think about making any sort of moves to improve this team after they were the fourth worst team in the MLB just last year. They signed second baseman Kike Hernandez, who can also play center field as well, to a 2-year, $14 million deal. And then they swung a very surprising deal that sent Andrew Benintendi to the Royals for 5 players. Only 2 players have been named so far in the Benintendi deal. One of those players is Frenchie Cordero from the Royals, and then we have Josh Winkowski from the Mets. They also found a way to bolster up their pitching by signing Garrett Richards to a 1-year deal, also making a trade with the Yankees for Adam Ottavino, and also bringing back fan favorite Martin Perez. I asked Red Sox Masslive Writer Chris Cotillo how he thinks these recent moves will help improve the Red Sox roster compared to last season. So let's hear what Chris said.
The moves aren't necessarily the flashiest or the most expensive or the ones that are going to make headlines, but the Red Sox added a lot of depth, a lot of versatility. I think fans are going to really like Kike Hernandez, Marwin Gonzalez playing the platoon roles they do, and if the pitching staff stays healthy, this is a huge upgrade in that way too.
What is up, Sox fans? My name is Jake Iggy, or Iggy for short, and this is BoSox Talk, the fastest way for you to find your Red Sox news weekly. So this week, we are going to be talking about the 2021 expectations for this Red Sox roster. And I don't know if you guys have realized, but everybody around baseball is doubting this Red Sox team. And it makes sense. I get it. When you really look at this Red Sox team, it's not glamorous. They didn't make any major splashes like we talked about last week. And when you really look at the rankings of this team last season, it's not like they weren't bad at hitting. They were third in overall hitting, but when you look at the pitching and fielding, I mean, the only plus of the Red Sox being that bad last season was they got a number 4 pick in this upcoming draft. But quite honestly, I'm not saying this team is close to the talent that 2013 had, but don't forget, everybody was really looking down on that 2013 team, and they were hoisting up the trophy at the end of the season. I'm not saying that that's going to happen, but I'm just saying don't rule it out. So you heard my expectations for this Red Sox team, but let's hear what Section 10 co-host Steve Perrault expects this Red Sox team to do this upcoming season.
All right, reporting live from the Green Monster, the Red Sox will compete for a playoff spot this season. Kike Hernandez, Garrett Richards, Adam Ottavino, top 3 additions I expect to perform well. This team's going to be in the hunt. I don't know how close they're going to be to the division lead. They're going to be in the hunt for a playoff spot. Be on the lookout for those 3 guys.
What is up, Sox fans? My name is Jake Iggy, or Iggy for short, and this is BoSox Talk, the fastest way for you to find your Red Sox news weekly. So this week, we are going to be previewing the 2021 Red Sox starting pitching, which, as most of you know, was a big weakness of the team last season. They were ranked 28th in the MLB with a 5.58 ERA and led the league in the most home runs and the most hits. And with that sort of formula, your pitching is going to be an all-time worst. And that's exactly what it was last season for the Red Sox. As most of you know, during a regular starting pitching rotation, there's 5 pitchers, but the Red Sox used 16 different pitchers as starters last season. And it's going to be tough for the Red Sox to be able to rebound after last season, especially with their ace Chris Sale going to be sidelined until around June or July. But luckily, the number 2 starter, Eduardo Rodriguez, will be back after he missed most of 2020 with COVID-19 heart issues. Nathan Eovaldi is going to be another big component of this Red Sox rotation. As many of you know, last season, anytime he was really up to pitch, there was sort of a sigh of relief among Red Sox fans because he was literally the only starter that the Red Sox could rely on last season. To help bolster up the rotation, this offseason, the Red Sox did pick up Garrett Richards and bring back Martin Perez, but it's going to be interesting to see who will be the 5th starter for the Red Sox until Chris Sale comes back. Let's hear what pitcher list writer Sarah Griffin thinks about this Red Sox rotation.
I think the Red Sox starting rotation in 2021 is going to surprise a lot of people. You know, obviously you're getting back Erod, we're hopefully getting back Sale at some point, but the biggest thing this year is you get more depth than you ever did in 2020, And I think all these guys that we are calling, depth pieces, they all have a legitimate chance of making an impact on the starting rotation. And even some of them have a chance of being a legitimate MLB starter. So I really think a lot of people are sleeping on the rotation this year. It may not have any big names like Trevor Bauer signings, whatever, but I think they have a very good chance.
What is up, Sox fans? My name is Jake Iggy, or Iggy for short, and this is BoSox Talk, the fastest way for you to find your Red Sox news weekly. So this week, we are going to be looking into the Red Sox outfield going into the 2021 season. And it's kind of crazy because when you just flash back 3 years ago to 2018 when the Red Sox won the World Series, they have a drastically different outfield than they did back then. Because we were so used to seeing guys like Jackie Bradley Jr., Andrew Benintendi, Mookie Betts out in that Red Sox outfield. But as we've seen over the past 2 years, Benintendi got traded to the Royals. Jackie Bradley Jr. just signed with the Brewers, and last year, Mookie Betts was traded to the Dodgers. The Red Sox outfield alignment is going to look much different than most fans are used to because they have so much versatility around this depth chart that they have multiple options for each outfield position. So starting with left field, you're most likely going to see Frenchie Cordero starting there, but the Red Sox also have options like Hunter Renfroe and Marwin Gonzalez, who can also play that position. Now looking at center field, Alex Verdugo will primarily be playing this position but when Kike Hernandez won't be playing second base, he will most likely be Verdugo's replacement in center field. And then looking at the right field position, this is where Hunter Renfroe will most likely be playing primarily. But with that position, they have many options like Alex Verdugo, Kike Hernandez, and Frenchie Cordero can also play over there as well. The Red Sox also signed outfielder Danny Santana to a minor league deal just this past week, but he'll most likely be a bench replacement for any of these outfielders. I'm very confident that this Red Sox outfield is going to produce very well offensively and defensively, but let's hear what Jen McCaffrey from The Athletic says about this Red Sox outfield going into the 2020 season.
So in regards to, how the Red Sox outfield will perform this year, there's just going to be a lot of moving parts. I mean, Alex Verdugo could be in center, could be in right. Obviously got Marwin Gonzalez, Frenchie Cordero, Hunter Renfroe, Enrique Hernandez. Alex Cora has basically said there's just going to be a lot of moving and mixing and matching based on who's going to be, on the mound that day and who they're playing. And as far as Danny Santana, I think he had Tommy John surgery actually last year. So I think, he's going to be a little while before he can get into game action. They said they're happy with the way that he's progressing. But at the same time, I think he'll probably start off in the minors just to kind of get ready into that game action and keep building up the arm.
What is up, Sox fans? My name is Jake Iggy, or Iggy for short, and this is BoSox Talk, the fastest way for you to find your Red Sox news weekly. So this week we are going to be previewing the Red Sox relief pitching going into 2021, and it's very similar to how the Red Sox starting pitching went in 2020. It was abysmal. The ERA of the Red Sox relief pitching was .579, and that was 14th in the MLB. And even worse, looking at their opposing batting average, it was last in the MLB with a .282 batting average. And then when you even look at the whip as well, that was also last in the MLB with a .164 whip. Now, Chaim Bloom and the Red Sox did try to bolster their relief pitching throughout this offseason by adding Matt Andriese, who will most likely be used in the long relief role. Adam Ottavino they got from a trade from the Yankees. He will most likely be used as the setup man for the Red Sox. Now, I'm very confident that Chaim Bloom and the Red Sox did a great job during this offseason to help bolster up this relief pitching, but they are going to have to really step up due to how thin the Red Sox rotation is going into the season. Now let's hear what NESN Red Sox sideline reporter Jahmai Webster thinks about this Red Sox relief pitching going into the 2021 season.
Check this out. Red Sox are 120 years old. That's a lot of baseball games and pastime. But 2020, Jake, it gave us something we've never seen. One of the highest earned run averages in the history of the Red Sox franchise. It was 5.58. That was good for second last in the American League. That's got to, and we think will be markedly better in 2021, especially when you have the bullpen additions of guys like Adam Ottavino, Hirokazu Sawamura, and Matt Andriese, in addition to the guys that are already living in the pen. Mark my words, Sox are under the radar, and how good they can be will be indicative of how they perform here in high leverage situations when they need to stop the bleeding from some of the struggling starting pitchers.
What is up, Sox fans? My name is Jake Iggy, or Iggy for short, and this is BoSox Talk, the fastest way for you to get your Red Sox news weekly. So this week, I am going to be previewing the 2021 Red Sox infield, and it looks a little bit different than it did last season. Looking over at first base, mostly last year, Michael Chavis covered that position, but this year, rookie Bobby Dalbec will be taking his place. Then looking at second base, the Red Sox signed Kike Hernandez from the Los Angeles Dodgers, and he's mostly going to be playing over at second base. And then when you look at shortstop and third base, it's going to be pretty much the same, with Xander Bogaerts playing shortstop and then Rafael Devers playing third. At the start of this spring training, there was a little bit of a position battle between Christian Arroyo and Michael Chavis on who is going to be the backup second baseman. Now, this past week, Michael Chavis was sent down to the alternate site, mainly because if the Red Sox tried to do that with Christian Arroyo, he's out of options. So he would be put on waivers, which essentially would mean that another team could pick him up. Now, there's still a chance that we will see Michael Chavis on the Major League roster sometime during the 2021 season, but that most likely will happen if somebody gets injured or is put on the COVID reserve. Now, in my opinion, this Red Sox roster is the most versatile team in the entire MLB, and that's mostly because they have multiple guys that are able to play many positions on this depth chart. Now, starting with Marwin Gonzalez, he can basically play every single infield position, and so that could mean that if Kike Hernandez goes to center field, he could potentially either play second base or first base if Bobby Dalbec also needs a break. So there's going to be a lot of ways that the Red Sox can really align this infield. Now, going into the season, I am very confident in this Red Sox infield to really produce well offensively and defensively. But one issue that they had during this spring training was avoiding errors. So that's one thing that they really want to work on going into this season. Now, a lot of the errors that they made in the spring training games could become really critical when we get over to the regular season, because those errors could potentially have lost the Red Sox the game ultimately if it was a regular season game. Now, I have a very special guest joining me named Tyler Boronski, who is an assistant content producer at NESN, and he's going to give his thoughts on this Red Sox infield going into the season.
Hey Jake, the Red Sox infield's looking really good going into this season. You have solid infielders across the board in Xander Bogaerts, Kike Hernandez, Christian Arroyo, and Bobby Dalbec, two guys whose names are often attached to offense, but Alex Cora feels don't get enough credit for their defensive abilities. The concern though, Rafael Devers led the league last year in errors with 14. Which Devers are you going to get? The one we saw in 2019 under Cora, or the one that regressed in the field in 2020? And finally, Michael Chavis, the man on the outside looking in. We've seen him at second base, first base, third base this spring. Unlike 2020, won't be leaving the diamond for any time in the outfield. But for him to prove his value on this team, he'll have to show it not only with his bat, but also with his versatility, the theme of this 2021 Red Sox roster.